Okay then, right. So Ilkay has gone to work, and we'll continue the podcast without him. So one thing I just sort of wanted to say was, I mean, you say obviously we reckon there might be some sort of like control over the games, but Fenerbahce, as big as club as they are, I feel like there's got to be so many people who do support Fenerbahce, so surely they are in these high positions. You do get the Fenerbahce fan, and I sort of think, I mean, maybe do you think maybe they're just not there? Maybe it's just run by Galatasaray fans and stuff, sort of.
No, I don't think so. I mean, talking about this just kind of makes my mind melt. It's almost like I watch the game and like just think, okay, maybe through the referees or things like that, because there are some times where a referee will call something for one team and call something for another team. So it's like it's a hell of a question as to who's really in control of this sort of thing. But
yeah, I mean, yeah, I obviously I think about referees, and obviously the way Turkish football, the supporters, pretty much, even if someone supports, say, Sivasspor, it's quite likely they support one of the big three as well. And so obviously the majority of our refs are going to have one of the sort of inkling to one of the teams and want that team to do well. So I kind of accept that that's just going to happen. I mean, I'd like foreign refs to be brought in to the game, but I guess it's just... So obviously, I mean, Fenerbahce fans will say the majority of referees don't support Fenerbahce, but I guess that's obviously got to play for it. Whether that might not have any sort of political connection. It might just be their own view to sort of want the game to go their way for their team.
Sure.
So yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
So do you have any do you have any sort of idea who will win this year? Do you have any sort of theory?
Winning this year, I mean, you look at Galatasaray, who have made some good moves. I mean, Beşiktaş have made their moves and things like that. But this is a very good question. I mean, I really can't say anything in terms of right now. I mean, I would have to wait until maybe January or something. But, sometimes you look at Galatasaray, for instance, some people will say, like, well, Akhisar never beats Galatasaray for some reason, and the whole deal with, like, well, Cihan Arslan is a former Galatasaray guy, and that's another thing that seems to bug me. Like, anytime a former Galatasaray or Beşiktaş player play against their former club, it comes off as they don't try really that hard. But anytime a former Fenerbahce player plays against Fenerbahce, they seem to have the game of their lives or something. Or I wouldn't go that far, but it seems as though they have an extra motivation. Maybe one would think like maybe one player would have one player would be extra motivated to like prove to his former club that getting rid of him was a bad idea. But again, this is all just theories. This is just I can't prove any of this, but it just comes off. It just bugs me. It just comes off that way when I watch.
Yeah. I mean, I get your point. Sort of, but I mean, obviously, yeah, we want all players to be playing as well as they can, and but yeah, just sort of, I saw the Akhisar Galatasaray game recently, and there's came to my attention from like Twitter. There's the one player, Doug Lau. He's not even a former Galatasaray player, and he's Brazilian. He shouldn't have, but he just never plays as well. He just always messes up in their games, the games between the two. So it just sort of suspicious for that reason. And the former coaches as well. They sort of because they all sort of can easily field a weaker team if they want to, and it's just sort of so hard to prove that they're doing it on purpose, even though it looks so obvious in that sense.
That's true. Yeah. watching these matches, sometimes when you look at Kayserispor, for instance, that 3-3, I mean, you got to admit Fenerbahce fought back very well. Unfortunately, I've been at work the last 2 Sundays where Fenerbahce has played, so I haven't watched anything. Like with the Başakşehir game, I would say, Fener never wins in Başakşehir, so it's okay. I can let that slide. I mean, history's already telling us that Fenerbahçe never does one Başakşehir, and well, put it this way, at least better to get that match out of the way this season very early in the first week. So that I can let go, but I just find it weird that Fenerbahçe doesn't have a win so far. I mean. I don't think it's a fix so far, but trying to accuse things of being of fixes is pretty heavy. But that match fixing case basically opened up Pandora's box, and basically what I thought at the time was now everything is going to get scrutinized to high heaven, and people will put up stuff on Twitter saying like, oh well, this looks suspicious or this looks sketch and things like that. So.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously after the Başakşehir game, I was like, yeah, it's the first game of the season. It's the hardest place to go in the league, arguably. And we're unlucky, and I thought, let's get the next win against Kayserispor next weekend. And whilst there wasn't too many sort of controversial moments, obviously there was the Kaya red card, which easily could have been, not a red card, but, this happens now and again, referees. But it just seems a bit odd that Kayserispor were actually winning in Fenerbahçe Stadium. And obviously it does happen in football, but as you said, it's been 2 game weeks and we've only got 1 point so far.
Yeah.
And, I mean, obviously there's sort of... It's like a big statement to say the league is fixed, but I've sort of talked to people and seen on Twitter, and these sort of people who are more willing to accept that their own club might cheat just say all the big 3 have sort of fixed at times, and it's the 2011 was the first time it's actually been sort of exploded onto the national scale and things, and well, according to as Yildirim says, there wasn't even match fixing. But another thing to think of as that season is, although Fenerbahçe did go on this amazing sort of, I think 19 game unbeaten run when they won about 18 of the games to draw level on points with Trabzonspor. Trabzonspor, if you look at the season before that and you look at the season after that, their points total is nowhere near. And it's like, why is no one pointing fingers at Trabzonspor? Yeah. That's just an amazing season for them, and it's just, odd in that sense.
Yeah. Well, let me just add to that. If you're going to fix a championship for Fenerbahçe to win on head-to-head goal difference, not just regular goal difference, but head-to-head goal difference. I mean, I think it was like 3-2 for Trabzonspor in the Trabzon leg, and I think it was 2-0 for Fenerbahçe in the home leg. So Fenerbahçe wins on head-to-head goal difference, and then you go say, well, it's like, that Andre Santos shot, Korcan Çelikay let that in, and I remember thinking, if you see that shot and you see that in real time, I mean, there's no way a goalkeeper's going to react to that quickly. But then you go on to the following season, and then they introduced that playoffs thing to make sure that, there is no sort of fixing or anything. But look at who the 4 teams were in the championship group. It's the big 4 because they're already losing the money. The broadcasters lost money because of the season was delayed for a month. The TFF would have lost money. So, it's just all about the money to me. I mean, that's really all it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the Turkish Cup is set up in that way, and no one's really denying that as well. It's just all broadcasting, set up for a big team to sort of win. And, I mean, was it like going back to politics? And obviously you said you're not sure whether, the Erdogan is even involved, and sort of him as a Fenerbahce fan, maybe, even if he wants a new sort of leader, of Fenerbahce that's more loyal to him, and then maybe he'll let them start winning league titles. I think surely now Yildirim has done enough. He's denounced Gülen so many times recently that isn't it our turn to maybe win the league again?
I don't know about that, but you know that clubs union meeting, I think that was what was it, a few days ago or something like that, where they all went to Erdogan's residence.
Yeah,
that meeting. I mean, Erdogan and Aziz Yildirim meets like for the first time in 5 years, and I think they had like a private meeting or something.
Yeah.
So, but then again, my views tend to change as like things go along or whatever. I mean, some people would say, well, I guess maybe he's lobbying for a title now or something like that. But I think probably Aziz Yildirim is one of the few guys that not even Erdogan can really touch. But I just don't know. I can't really prove any of this stuff. Again, I can't prove any of it, but it just comes off as some suspect stuff, like gossip or whatever.
Yeah,
But the whole thing with the whole Feto thing from the coup attempt, I mean, you've heard of the show Telegol, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Serhat Ülüeren, who hosts that show, I mean, there was a video going around the social media like a little after that coup attempt. He said, "Well, it seems as though Aziz Yildirim came out like he was right, and he's probably one of the biggest anti-Aziz Yildirim people out there." So I just thought that was funny. But this season, again, like what's going to happen after the coup and all that? Some players might not come here, but I guess now they're starting to come in, like with the transfer deadline day. I can't really prove any of this, but it just comes off as, some of these things are just come off as way too weird for me. That's really all it is.
Yeah, I see your points. Like, obviously, it's so hard to prove as someone. You've got to be in one of the big positions of power to sort of gain any proof, if there is any. But yeah, obviously, there's always suspicious stuff. Like recently, the new Prime Minister Binali Yildirim, Galatasaray and Beşiktaş both presented him with a shirt with his name and the 24 number of his province, Erzincan. But Fenerbahce did not, and on Twitter they were saying, "Oh, it's an easy opening day for Galatasaray and Beşiktaş," and sure enough, it was. Beşiktaş played the newly promoted Alanyaspor at home. Galatasaray played newly promoted Karabükspor at home, and then we went to Başakşehir away. So obviously, maybe if we wanted an easier fixture, we should have copied the other two and done the same. But it shouldn't be done like this. And it's just sort of that just seems just sort of like some of the preferences.
Yeah, I mean, like here in the U.S., like teams go to the White House to present Obama with like a jersey or something after a championship. See, if they do that, then that's not a problem. They win the league title, they want to go to Erdogan and present him with a jersey. Okay, it's like, okay, fine. That happens in the U.S. all the time. But during the season, like to various, ministers and stuff, it's like, what are you trying to get at? Why are you presenting them with jerseys? It just comes off as like intensive lobbying, because the AKP really has everything on like tentacles in every facet of society. It seems as though, and football is just a part of that. But I've always thought, if you control the football, you can control the country, because you can get a lot of sway from football fans and such. Now Erdogan is a Fenerbahce fan, and we know that. But I say it's like, okay, well, if you're trying to accuse like the TFF of any favoritism, well then why hasn't Erdogan ever used his influence to make Fenerbahce champions over and over again?
Yeah.
I just